Autumn is such a magical season. One minute we are enjoying the warm summer days, the next we are catapulted into a time of cooler days and cold nights. We begin to see the leaves turn into beautiful shades of red, orange and brown, only then to eventually fall. This is a great time of year to get out into nature and experience the sights. Autumn is my favourite season, especially early autumn, when I believe we have the best weather. Not too hot and not too cold. On a clear day, we enjoy sunshine which warms but doesn't scorch, and cooler nights which are much more comfortable to sleep. For me, it's a time of reflection on the previous months and also a time of great change. If I could freeze frame one month of the year, it would be early autumn, with September being my favourite month. And I am not the only one who enjoys the season. This is early autumn. The transition from summer into autumn sees the delight of the late flowering perennials. Rich and bold colours, the changes of flowers to seed heads, a time when grasses have their moment. And the ripening of fruit. The garden still has so much to offer at this time of year. Many plants are still giving their all, showing no signs of stopping. Whilst enjoying this extravaganza, we are also looking forward to the coming year. Autumn is all about seed collection. It's about preparation for what's to come the following year. I just love this time of year. I'm out in the garden at the minute, and the intention is to tie some little pieces of string around some of the sweet peas over here, especially the ones that we want to grow the same colours again. So, for instance, this red one here, I absolutely adore, and I'm going to tie a little bit of string around this so that we remember to let it go to seed, because that's what's important here. So what I'm going to do is let the majority of the flowers continue, but there are a number of colours that I really would like to keep and sow for next year because I absolutely adore sweet peas. So I'm just going to tie this piece of string around this gorgeous red one that I want to keep. I do bring a lot of these flowers inside, probably daily, sometimes daily. You know, if it's a really sunny day and all the plants are covered in sweet peas, then it will be daily. If not, it's usually every other day or every third day I'm bringing flowers into the house for the colour, but mainly for the scent. It's beautiful to have them inside the house. I recommend these plants to anybody. I mean, this one is Giant Wave Mix, and we planted them, if you can look at one of the other videos that we did, it was Paul that put them in, and he put them in these tall pots, and the idea was, we tried sweet peas before many times. We did used to have success in Sheffield, but sometimes they can be obliterated by slugs. Now, by putting them in tall pots, what happened was he gave them a chance. So they were already about this high when they were in the pots. Place the pots on top of the soil. That allows the roots to go through into the ground, from the pot into the ground, and it means that you're basically onto a winner, especially when it comes to slugs. So I've got that one on there, and I'm just going to do some of the other colours that I want to keep. I've got some little pieces of string in my pocket here. I'm not going to tie the knots too tight. The last thing you want to do is to strangle the stem and end up with the stem dying. So we really need to be careful that it's tight enough that it stays on, but at the same time it's not too tight that, you know, the stem dies. So just like that, it's just a marker to say, don't touch this one. You can cut everything else, but don't touch this. I really enjoy doing stuff like this because it's that preparation for the next year. You know what's to come. You know from this seed, lots more wonderful plants are going to come. And that means lots more flowers, but mainly for me, lots more scent. When they're ready, we'll be able to take them off the plant, bag them in paper bags, ready for sowing. Fantastic. I've just dug a piece of geranium up from the other side of the garden, and I split it into 3 pieces. So I've got 3 small pieces here, and we were noticing before how there's quite a bit of a gap at the front of this border, and so this is a really reliable geranium that flowers throughout the year, and you know, from spring, late spring into autumn really. So we're going to put 3 pieces in along the front of this border, because what will happen, it will spill out over these bricks and hopefully soften the edges, because that is a bit harsh. The geranium itself looks like this. Such a beautiful flower. It's gorgeous, lovely soft delicate pink, and as I say, it's a really, really good doer as well. Now, what I am going to do before planting is to take off some of the leaves. So any leaves that are snapped, like so, and just basically make it a bit easier for the plant to become established. Because if I was a plant, I wouldn't like to be moved and then divided into pieces like this. So even though they do thank us for it in the end, they tend, you know, you're just going to get a load of wilting leaves, which is not the greatest. So I'm just taking some of the leaves off, some of the foliage, and it just allows the plant to, I'm going to take another one off that one. So I've got 3 plants there. Now, in no time at all, even at this time of year, they will settle in at least and begin to grow. They're not going to do very much this year, but by next year, they're going to look fantastic. So what I'll do is I'll pop these into the ground. So put these in, and these will look lovely next year. If the warm weather continues, they will establish and start to develop some leaves from the base, but we're not expecting very much. It's not like I'm moving them in spring. It's not like I'm planting them, dividing them and planting them in spring. So we're just gonna except that we'll have to wait till next year to see the results. But I think they look amazing here. Our style of gardening has always been, we never like to see huge gaps in a border or a bed. And I know to most people will probably think, well, there's not that much of a gap here, it's only quite small. To us, you know, we'd rather see planting there and flowers than soil. Notice as well, the reason why we thought it would be such a great idea to put this geranium along the front here is because it is the same kind of colour. It complements the two colours of the salvia. So you've got the gorgeous salvia with the beautiful deeper pink, and then the very soft pink of the geranium as well. And I think that will really complement this plant. So there you go, 3 beautiful little plants for 0 cost, and next year this beautiful brick will have some nice soft planting running over the top, and it will look amazing. It's early autumn, and it just shows how even when the evenings start to get cooler, we can still come out into the garden and just enjoy it, to sit back, to look at the sky, to watch the planes going overhead, just to see the clouds in the distance and enjoy the sounds and sights in the garden, and enjoy what's left of the season until the winter comes. And you know that the last thing you want to do at the end of the day is to come out into the garden and sit there in, you know, when it's icy outside. At this time of an evening, one thing that we notice is how different flowers can look. The colours, you see a whole new dimension to them. And I was sat admiring this penstemon, and I just love this pinky reddy colour, but how it looks in this kind of light. So the sun's gone down and it just looks stunning. It looks great during the day, but I think it offers something magical right now. In contrast to the penstemon, look how vibrant this Rudbeckia is, and look at how much colour and light it brings to the garden at this time of night. It looks stunning. It really does light up a space, and it's certainly something that I'm really glad that we planted. It looks gorgeous.
This is one of my favourite plants. This is Echinacea pallida, and it's equally as nice as it's going into autumn as it is when it's in flower in summer. These lovely pink petals are now frazzling up and turning browns and blacks, and it's not called a coneflower for no reason. As you can see, this central bit, which is the cone, is nice and tactile. You'd think it would be quite spiny, but actually it's quite soft to touch. And all the beautiful seed will be inside that cone. But I'm going to leave it because I really, really like the seed heads of Echinaceas. And later on, the birds will be trying to get the seed out. So it's really good for wildlife too. Some more of my favourite seed heads include the Eupatorium. This huge beast I'm having to bend towards me because I can't reach it right at the back of the border. And these lovely fluffy seed heads, literally a big gust of wind and they'll blow off and try and set seed somewhere else in the garden. Remarkable. And also the Monarda, which you know I am really fan of. So the Monarda we have in the garden, which was a beautiful vivid red in summer, it's now gone all brown and crisp, and you can even, when you touch it, has that crispy feeling and sound to it. I'm leaving all these on because if we get a touch of frost, they will absolutely look fantastic. They're just amazing. I love seed heads almost as much as I love the flowers. And this is the reason why we don't chop things down after they've flowered. There's so much more to gain from leaving the seed heads, leaving the plants, letting them do their own thing and chopping back in spring. They're just amazing. And just look at this Achillea. Look at these seed heads, the way they've turned to brown. And there's even a cheeky one that's just trying to flower quite late on. That's amazing. So that's how the whole plant was in summer. And it flowered for quite a long time. But as soon as those flowers go over, it quite quickly turns into these brown seed heads. But they look equally as nice as what the yellow does. And if you just brush them, you can see all that seed. It's amazing. And just right next to it is this Lychnis officinalis. These lovely spires that have turned from the lovely flower into these lovely seed heads. Such strong accents of vertical shape and form in the border. Why would anyone want to cut these back? And it's such a contrast to see these in amongst the flowers that are just taking over the border now. It's the aster's time to flower. These have had their day, but it's great how they go together still.
There are still many jobs in the vegetable garden to get on with. Earthing up the potatoes planted for Christmas, making sure we have a bumper harvest for Christmas lunch. Transplanting earlier grown salad seedlings. Here we've created an attractive display using various pots and planters. There's also the harvest of tomatoes. It's early autumn, and what a fantastic time to be out here in the garden enjoying this lovely sunshine. It's very rare we get autumns like this, but thankfully this year we're having one. It's been relatively dry, in fact it's been very dry, and I just wanted to get out and take a look at this border. We planted this very narrow border in early spring, and it's just filled with lots of wonderful gems. It's got Stipa tenuissima, we've got salvias, we've got geranium, we've got euphorbia. You know, it's one of those cases of you name it, we've got it. I love the way that these fluffy plumes from the Stipa tenuissima just engulf the planting, because they really do. I mean, look at the way they mingle in with the geraniums, the salvia, the euphorbia. You know, they're just perfect. And to be honest with you, I think we could do with a few more in a little further down the border as well. So we'll work on that. But I just love the way that they cut through the planting. We've also got some achillea coming up here as well. There's some eryngium behind, but unfortunately that's not done very well. It was a divided plant. We divided it into half. Paul did that, and what happened was it was a bit slow to take off. So I'm assuming that next year it will be okay and it'll look fantastic. But I just love the way that the border has really knitted together. I mean, there's a nice rose further along as well, that's Superstar, and that's been in for a very, very long time. We've got the perennial wallflower in here as well. This one is beautiful, and I just love the scent from these. But what's happened is we've kept the border in this condition now at autumn by constantly deadheading, and I can't emphasize enough, it really is the key to a successful garden, especially growing the kind of plants that we do here. And it's just as simple, I've said it in other videos, coming out and just bring your secateurs or your scissors, whichever you feel comfortable with, and just deadheading. Now, to be honest with you, I think I've deadheaded Patricia here within an inch of her life. So she's pretty much, I don't think she needs any deadheading doing. But yeah, just keep coming out, keep deadheading, and it really does make a huge difference to the garden. But I know that if this area can look so fantastic after such a short space of time, because we're talking about, you know, early spring, and we're now in September. If this can look this good after so many months, imagine what this border is going to look like next year. I know that it's going to be truly magnificent. I just love it. I love the smells as well from the phloxes, because what we've tried to do is create some repetition throughout the garden as well. So as you can see, obviously we've got the Stipa tenuissimas, but we've got the phloxes. We've got a nice phlox there and here as well, and the salvias running through, and we've just tried to create some repetition. Now we've got sweet peas at the other end there, and they're providing some fantastic scent as well. We'll probably put the sweet peas at the very end of the border there, close to the shed, and that will leave a little bit of space at the front for some more of these wonderful plants, therefore continuing the repetition, because nothing looks better in a garden when it's, I mean, sometimes, I remember in our last garden, I love that cottage garden jumble, but it's nice when it's a well thought out jumble. And this is no exception to the rule. You know, we've tried to think about this border quite carefully, and there are some things that need to be changed in it. But to be honest with you, it looks amazing, and I think that what we will do next year is just create that continuation, perfect it if you like. We'll make it perfect. And I just know that I'm very excited to see what happens next year with this border. The amazing thing is, having a border like this doesn't have to be expensive as well. Many of the plants that you see in the border have come from divisions or have been grown from seed, such as this little Stipa tenuissima. Now this plant was grown from seed collected last summer and grown this spring. So we sowed it this spring, and look at it now already. So it's a unique little plant there, all ready to literally go into the ground. And how you get the seed is, once the Stipa is flowering, once the grass is flowering like this, you just run your fingers along the end. So say like this. So there is all the seed that we need now to sow into a pot. I love this seed because you've got the seed right at the bottom there, and then these lovely little long parachutes, if you like, and they allow the seed to disperse far and wide in the wind. And I've just been noticing around the garden, just underneath this steeper here, there's lots of seed already been broadcast, so I can imagine we're going to have lots of little offspring coming up next year. But what I'm going to do now is put these into a pot, or sow them into a pot. So I've got a little pot here, and all as I need to do, that's actually too much seed for this tiny little pot. I tend to go over the top with things, and why change the habit of a lifetime? So what I'm going to do is just place these in. I don't need to detach the parachute. So I've got the seed at the bottom there, if I can get my hand in there. Oh, Andrew, there you go. So the seed's there, there's a little parachute there. So I'm just going to place these into the pot. I'll start around the edges. So as you can see, I'm not being too precious about it. I'm just trying to get these seeds in there, just laying them across the soil so that they cover the entire surface of this pot. I'm determined to get them all in this pot, and they will be okay. Now these will probably come up, if the weather stays warm and we keep them well watered and the weather stays lovely as it has been, they'll probably come up this autumn. If not, we'll just take good care of them, put them to one side, and they will come up in spring. So it's no problem if they don't germinate before the end of autumn, but I believe that they will. So there's quite a lot there, but they're going to be fine. And I'm going to put some more compost just over the top, just to cover them. Try not to get it all over my freshly cut lawn. I cut yesterday. Right, so a bit more. And if you think about it, if each one of these seeds germinate, and most probably, knowing this Stipa tenuissima, they will do, you're going to end up with each one turning into a plant like that. Now think about that, just look at the saving, think about how much they are at a garden centre or somewhere else, and you know, you're getting all these plants from potentially one plant. In our case there's many plants, but in your case there could just literally be one plant. And I always like the idea of that, trying to save money where possible, because let's face it, you know, it's great to go out to the garden centre and to the nursery and buy plants, and you know, that's something that we do, that's our pastime, but there's nothing better in so many ways than growing your own plants, because not only are you having that intimate contact with the plant, creating a plant from seed, or you know, however you know, if you're dividing and things, but especially with seed, you're creating that, you know, that special bond between you and the newly growing plant, but also you're saving money. And I think now more than ever, with everything that's going on in the world at the minute and the way that prices are of everything, I think that now is the time when we really do need to be thinking about utilising what we've got and harvesting our own seed and using that. I'm not saying don't buy seed, you know, we all need to buy seed. I know Paul was looking at some earlier, the Chinese lantern, I think he was looking at earlier. So he wants to get some of those, and so there's a time and a place for it, but at the minute, while we've got all these plants, we're going to use the seed we've already got, and look at that. That'll be fantastic. I'll give that a water in a little while and that'll be fine.
Ben's never as happy as when he's out in the garden enjoying the fresh air and watching the birds on the feeders. As the weather gets colder, we'll wrap him up in a warm blanket, but for now, he's happy enjoying the last of the warmer days.
At this time of year, you really do have to try and snatch time whenever you can. And it's almost like a constant race with the light levels, and sometimes you come back from work and you're trying to get out into the garden as quick as you can. That light level is dropping every hour that goes by. The nights are drawing in, and we try as best as we can to make time and look and see the garden, because we need some time out from our busy work schedule. After work, it's nice to come outside and enjoy the surrounding with a nice cup of tea, just to get your mind back into a good place, to kind of take away all the things that you might have been busy with during your day. It's a good time now to come back into the garden and just be at peace with the bird's song and with nature. It might be autumn, but there is still a lot that you can be doing. There's still a lot that we can be enjoying, and there's also still a lot to look forward to. It's a time when we look forward to spring displays of bulbs and spring flowers. So whilst we are living in the moment and living in the season, we are also focusing some of our energies and our efforts on ensuring we have plants for the spring, and that involves for us planting spring bulbs. So that'll be the next thing that we get involved with. Just a couple of pots of spring bulbs, spring flowers to tide us through, to give us something to look forward to in the early beginning of the year.
There's a real nip in the air, but that doesn't stop the birds from wanting to be fed. There's one, as you can see, on top of the light post at the back behind me now, and there's a few on the fence, so I better go and feed them. As you can see, they've arrived. There's 2 wood pigeons and a small little tiny bird trying to share the table with them. It's really important at this time of year that we do make time to feed the birds, and certainly as the autumn progresses and the winter comes in, we need to make sure that all winter we're out there feeding them. Not so long ago, I was in my shorts and t-shirt. Now I'm in my trusty hoodies, and it's really chilly. It doesn't stop me wanting to go out into the garden, but there is a difference, a huge difference. You can see your breath in the air in the morning when you come out, and at the end of the day, when you've finished in the garden, you can't wait to get back indoors by the fire.